On Gurudev's instructions and with his sweet mercy, we continue reading Manah Siksha, the instructions for the mind, by Raghunath Das Goswami, translated by Advaita Das, and with the nectar commentary of Ananta Das Babaji Maharaj, and with the help of many others, as you have noticed. There are many contributors to this sweet text.
Yeah. Teaching to the mind.
This sounds bad.
Open. Mind.
Yes.
Sound is not good?
Yes, your sound is good. Is my sound good?
Yeah, sound good.
Everybody's good.
Yeah.
What is the most sweet question of the whole prayer, this very short prayer, only 12 verses, but then with many commentaries from Anantadas Babaji and others. And as I've mentioned before, there are also beautiful commentaries by Narayan Maharaj and by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So many great acharyas have been interested in this short poem. But what's really unique about it, really special and very, very sweet, is that it's a prayer to the mind. It's Raghunath Das saying a prayer to his own mind. So we have to be gentle and kind and think about what that means. For a great, great, great soul like Raghunath Das Goswami to make a prayer and give lessons to his own mind. And he does it, we saw last time and the time before, he does it so sweetly. He calls his mind, "Oh, my friend, oh, my brother." So sometimes in our devotee practice, we are very frustrated with our minds and we accuse our mind of being the monkey mind and being ping pong and unsettled and nervous and all. And in a way, Raghunath Das Goswami says the same thing, but he is kind with his mind. He's gentle with his mind, and he calls his mind his friend and his brother.
Wow.
So in a way, what the poem is about, the prayer, is not about being angry at the mind, which we often are, I often am, but being friends with the mind, collaborating with the mind, and finally realizing that without the mind there would be no devotional practice. Then all material life would be meaningless. That it's that's the mind that carries us to the soul, to the sarup. Without the mental religion, without the images that we see in our meditations, without the mind taking us to temple, taking us to some sankirtan, taking us to our japa bag, then there would be no devotion and the world would be much poorer. So I think the greatest message of this Manah Siksha is that the realization that the mind is also something very positive. It's a creation of God. It's a creation in the subtle energy. It's not the pure inner spiritual energy, but it's a creation and it has a purpose. And that's to help us to relish. Because when we relish our spiritual practice, but also when we relish our material lives with spiritual consciousness, we serve Radha and Mohan, and their relish increases. So that's the main message, I think, of this. And then we go into many details about how this happens, and we learn a lot about the mind, and we learn a lot about devotion and about the soul as well.
Radhe Radhe Uddhava Prabhu.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to share that hearing from you about Manah Siksha helps me a lot, because as you said, we don't have to fight against our mind. We making a brother, a friend. It's like being in a good relation, like a teamwork. We need our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And in this way, I feel that it's like you say in English, to pacify. It's like the mind becomes calm because he feels accepted and understood. And this is the way of love. Because if I beat myself up all the time, then I can also become, or the mind can become, like a rebellion child. This is what I experience. If somebody is screaming at me, if somebody is chastising me all the time, then I have the tendency to shut down my heart, close, and I run away, or I don't let you anymore in my space, in my heart. But then my heart is closed, so I cannot progress. And I feel with your words, I can really learn slowly to accept and to understand what is really happening. And this is what Gurudev is teaching us through love. We can pacify our mind. We can make him a real friend, being a good team in a loving relationship with the mind. And then he can help, because the mind will change naturally out of love, no?
Yes. Wow.
But this is what I'm experiencing right now. Things happen right now in my life where I feel bored. I want to run away. I want to fight. But this is blocking me from going further on my path. So not take my shoe and but to say, hey, I embrace you. I see you. I see you suffering. So thank you so much. It helps so much. No.
Thank you for this sharing, for this realization. Yeah, not only, it's like you say, not only is that not helping us, but sometimes, like you say too, that it's making us resist. We go backwards. The mind fights back and it gets more angry. And when I first took meditation class, complete atheistic meditation class, when I was starting university, then I learned the mind is evil. You have to stop that. You have to push it away, say no. Every time thoughts come, you say no, 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 and put up the wall. Fight back with your shoe, like you say. And it was only with discovering Bhakti and Gurudev that I understood that it's not to say no to the mind, it's to say yes to the mind, to realize what part the mind has in the spiritual path, and then to spiritualize it, to make it part of our spiritual life. So, wonderful sharing. Thank you. That's probably the best introduction to the book we could make. But in the first two lessons, the first two classes, then we sort of went through the ideas that Ananta Das Babaji brings in the commentary, and these are the central ideas about bhakti that we best learn to realize our mind through devotional practice, through humility, through association, through sankirtan, chanting and hearing, harikatha, And the most difficult of all, I think I said last week, the most difficult of all, surrender. So surrendering to the mind, not fighting the mind. Because that anger that you have to use, that energy you have to use to fight your mind and say, no, I don't want you here in my body, in my life. This negates the love. You said it so well, my Yoga Shakti. That cancels the love that you're developing through your bhakti practice. And we want it all. We're greedy. We want all that love. We have no place for any hate. So there's a very special, very soft and difficult to understand connection between mind and soul. And it goes through what we call usually awareness, or consciousness is a better word. That the best function of the mind and the constant function of the mind in a sadhaka is to be aware that there's a soul. And then as we go deeper in that awareness, making the consciousness bigger and stronger, as we go deeper into that awareness, realizing that not only do we have a soul, but that soul is by its very nature devotional. That the nature of the soul is to love, to give devotion, to serve, to give service. So this awareness that our mind is absolutely necessary for gives us those two steps in bhakti.
Where was the first?
First, soul consciousness, that we understand that there are two parts to our consciousness, both thinking and feeling, mind and soul. And for everybody who tunes into Zoom lesson, it's already too late. You're already lost. You already know this. You've already gone down the path of knowing that you have a soul. And now the question is, what are you going to do with this crucial information, this crucial realization? And then the second step, which is longer and softer and deeper, is understanding that the soul wants to love. The soul wants to serve. That the soul is a bhakta, a devotional being. And this we realize through our practice by being together with others who have realized this. We realize this with Guru, who helps us to understand what our soul looks like and reveals to us at the right moment what our spiritual identity is, what we call our Svarup. And that Svarup is clearly and directly a servant of love. So we have these two steps, and both of them depend on understanding on the mind. First, understanding that we're not a body, we're a soul. And second, understanding that that soul has a very special character, which is called devotional. Serving. Bhakti, bhakta. And so the mind needs to be a friend, because we need to understand some things before we take the final step and become completely identical with our soul identity. That's in a way in our material lives, in our sadhaka vesh, our sadhaka vesh means in our clothing as practitioners. Sadhaka is practitioner, vesh is clothing. So in our sadhaka vesh, the farthest we can come is to fully come into our spiritual identity, our Svarup, and fully embrace the truth that we are servants of love. We're servants of Radha and Mohan. And for this, the mind needs to be a friend. Like I said, there are only 12 verses, but there's a long commentary, a long and wonderful commentary by Ananda Das Babaji and many other friends. But let me repeat the verse for you. We're still on verse 1 after 3 weeks. So here's the verse in English translation. O mind, O brother, I hold your feet and I pray to you with flattering words. Always give up your pride and develop wonderful love for your spiritual master. The abode of Braj, the people of Braj, the saintly devotees, the Brahmanas, my initiation mantra, the holy name of Krishna, and the shelter of the eternally youthful couple of Braj, Shri Shri Radha Krishna. So first of all, we went through it in detail. I'll just remind you, it starts out by praising the mind. As I hold your feet, mind. And then I'm going to flatter you with very nice words. I'm going to give you compliments. And then it gives a list of things that the mind should develop love for. First, it says, give up your pride, and then develop wonderful love for these things. And then there's a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that we should develop love for through our mind. And what he means, we find out, is that when the mind has taken us down this path through bhajan, through our sadhana, through our practice, through our meditation and chanting and association and guru kata, being together with guru, when we've ticked the boxes of these 7 stages, then we'll arrive at our svarup. Then we will be who we really are. Then we will be our soul. So Raghunath says, love these 7 things. First of all, Guru. Second, Vraj. Devotees, other devotees. Brahmanas. The mantra. The holy name. And the loving couple. And now in this commentary, we go through, Anantadas Babaji goes through one by one these 7 things, and he describes what it means to love them, to develop love for these through the mind taking us to the heart, and then the love coming from the heart. And after 2 weeks, we spent the first time and the second time on Guru, which is a wonderful theme about what it means to love Guru and what it means to have a relation to Guru. And then last time I think we just about finished on the abode of Vraj, what it means to love Vrindavan Dham. And I think we'll finish that a little bit today and talk about the difference between Braj as a spiritual place and Braj as a material place. And then so on. Anantadas will continue through this list and explain what it means to love these things. So it's really, Anantadas is giving a nice explanation of how we do what Raghunath Das is advising us to do. It's very nice. So we talked about pride last time and what devotion is. We talked at length about Guru. And we talked about offenses. We looked carefully at this word anarthas, which is the word for sins in Hinduism. But if you look closely at the word, anartha means blockages. So there's no moral dimension to it. There's no good and bad and right and wrong. Things you should not do are things that simply block you on your path towards the soul. And then we had just started on what it means to love Shri Vrajdam, so Vrindavan. And we talked about Mathura is not a place on Google Maps, but it's rather a state of devotion, a state of heart. It's not a place in the earth, but it's a place, a spiritual place. And so when bhaktas talk about liberation, they don't mean that they want liberation from material life into nothingness. It's that they want liberation from material life into a direct devotional relationship with Radha and Mohan, and that happens in this spiritual plane called Mathura. Or, in other words, Vraj. And now we left off there, and then we continue with Anantadas Babaji talking about, well, briefly about transcendence, and then he comes back to the idea of Vrajdam. But they're of course linked together because Vrajdam is a transcendental place. So what does transcendence mean? At least in English language, it means that the truth comes from something which is not material, not physical. Transcendence is a realization. It's not a truth by facts. It's not some truth we know by looking at the material world and saying, that's a fact. Like looking at my table and saying, well, its color is black. That's an interesting material fact, but it's not transcendental because it involves no realization. In a transcendental realization, we might imagine something like, my table is the expansion of my heart's desire to write poetry. Nothing you can prove by facts. Nothing you could prove by looking at the color or measuring it with a measure tape or weighing it on a weight scale or anything. These are only things that can be found to be true by seeing them in the soul, by realizing them. And it's in this terms that Anantadas Babaji wants us to understand Vrindavandam, Vrajdam, that it's something we cannot talk about only materially, but we must understand it through our realization. Realizing the Leelas, realizing the kind of spiritual pastimes that are happening there. We cannot think about Vrajdam without thinking this ideal, there's no other word but place is really the wrong word. But it's this ideal state where loving pastimes is the reality. So instead of here, we have the sun goes up and sun goes down and the wind blows and the rain falls. In Vrajdam, there is love that circulates. There's emotion that flows through the rivers. There's feeling that comes out of the mouth of the lions and the animals in the forest. And of course, there's emotional, loving exchanges between the main characters in Vrajdam, Radha and Mohan. So Babaji now says in his commentary, transcendence can never be perceived with material senses. Therefore, the Lord has mercifully revealed his abode in this world in a form which is visible with the senses. Transcendence can never be perceived with the material senses, with our eyes, with our ears, etc. Therefore, the Lord has mercifully revealed his abode, this place, in this world, this material world, in a form which is visible with the senses. So this is exactly what we're talking about. The Lord has given us a mind or equipped our mind so that we can, in our deepest meditation, imagine this. we can have an image of what's going on in the transcendental world. And that's what we do when we do our bhajan and our prayers and our sankirtan. We're meditating on the pastimes. And so since we cannot see what's transcendental, we cannot be there, this can only happen after we leave the body, we're given this mind which lets us see it intellectually. And the more we deepen our feeling for what we see in our mind intellectually, the closer we come, the deeper we come into our soul. Without a mind, it would be black and white. You would have a bunch of material bodies who see nothing, and you would have a bunch of beautiful souls in Vrindavan Dham who are seeing everything, and there would be no way between. But because we have the mercy of this mind, which is able to imagine, which is able to have images, then we're capable of growing our feelings by relishing what the images we have in our mind, making our feelings grow, opening the door to our soul, so that at one time when we eventually leave the body, then we will be permanent, so to say, residents of the transcendental level. So this is such a beautiful message from Ananta Das Babaji that's saying the absolute beauty and necessity of the mind. Sometimes the mind is very naughty. Most of the time, let's be clear, most of the time the mind is very naughty. Almost all the time the mind is very naughty. But if 1 minute a day in our bhajan, we're fully present in our hearts, and we have the clear image of Vrindavan Dham, this will be enough to launch us on our way to our self realization. He goes on now, Babaji, with this faith, with love and devotion, we must live in the Dham. By that he means living in Vrindavan Dham. We do it through our faith because we experience the images. We do it through the love that's in our hearts and the devotion we practice. That's how we, as Sadhik Avesh, that's how we live. That's how we relate to the spiritual world. Through thinking, through remembering, through practicing, through all the things that open our hearts to feeling. This is how we live when we're in our material bodies. He goes on, if not, if we don't do that, then we will certainly commit offenses to this holy place, finding faults in it or seeing it as inferior place. So if we had no faith, if we had no love, no devotion, like many people we meet in the world don't, then we would just criticize. And that's what many people in the world do. The atheists do. They just say, oh, that's stupid. It's a waste of time. You're just imagining things. And of course we say, yes, we are. Yes, we are. And it's wonderful. Again, Babaji, we will be blessed if we can live in the Dham with great devotion and full faith that it is a transcendental place. For love for the holy Dham is the highest pursuit of life. So the highest pursuit of material life. When we're living in our bodies, as we all devotees are, then the best we can do is make our love for that place and the love that's flowing there between Radha and Mohan, we make that our goal. So the goal in our practice is to realize prema, to realize the basic activity that's happening in the spiritual world, which is loving relation. And this is very nice because this is what's happening in our hearts too. So by opening our hearts with, by letting feeling flow, by having faith, by having greed, by having devotion, then we see from the point of view of our own hearts that the highest pursuit of life is prem. That actually what is happening in Vrindavan Dham, in the spiritual level, is happening in our souls. When we're perfectly in our own souls, then we're perfectly in Vrindavan Dham. Babaji says, Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Pad has written, Prabodhananda is an associate of Lord Chaitanya, and he's also the author of several books. This one's called Vrindavan Mahimamrita, but he's also written Radha Rasa Sutta Niti. Vrindavan Mahimamrita means the great sweet nectar of Vrindavan. And in that works, Babaji cites now, he says, if I even have a little love for Vrindavan, a little love, the place which is blessed with the pastimes of Radha Murali Manohara's lotus feet, I will consider myself to have reached the highest goal of life. Wow. So to explain, that Radha Murali Manohara is Radha Mohan. Murali Manohara means the sound of the flute, the sound of the one who's playing the flute. So it's Mohan. So just a little taste of this place where the pastimes of Radha and Mohan are going on, and I will have completed my life. That's why I say, if you have 1 minute of good bhajan in one day, even 30 seconds, which is all most of us have, we sit for hours and hours, and we have 1 good minute, then we will have arrived, we'll have reached the goal, says Prabhupada. And I suppose you share this experience with me. That's all we really get in a day, is 1 minute of perfect bhajan. But that's all we need. That's all we need, is what Prabhupada is telling us. It's an extraordinary message, and it comes from this kind of complicated idea that God is in everything. That there's God is a whole and complete by herself, and yet she is in every little atom. And the example we often use is the sunshine, that the sun is the perfect God, but that we feel the sun in every sun ray that touches us. It's the same with this 1 minute of pure meditation we get after 5 hours of meditating. That 1 minute is the sun ray containing all the essence of the divine. And when we feel that, we know. When we feel that, then we're inspired, and we go on and we continue. So if we have that, if we realize that love for Vrindavan, then we reach our goal. And what I'm saying, and I'm not the one who invented it, everyone has this love for Vrindavan naturally in their soul. And our task through our bhajan, through our sadhana, is to realize that, to understand it. And it's hidden in the most wonderful and strange places, this realization. And it will hit us at the strangest times. we'll be cooking some rice. And then suddenly the entire Vrindavan Dham will be there. All of heaven will be there for a moment. Or we'll be walking in the forest and turn our head to hear a bird sing, and suddenly everything will be there for one moment. It's this little drop of nectar, this little love for Vrindavan, that is a reflection of all of Vrindavan. And this means practically that we need to be ready. Right? We need to be aware and clear and conscious, because it might be that the next sip of coffee will bring us a moment of contact with that perfect world. Babaji goes on. Srila Saraswati Pad, so Prabhupada still, who is filled with love for Shrivan Vrindavan, shows a wonderful fixation in devotion and living in Braj. And now comes a longer quote from that same book, the Vrindavan Mahimamrita. It's a little bit famous, so it comes up again and again in Bhagavatam and other places. I would rather be a worm in Vrindavan, the greatest treasure of Sri Radha and Muralidhara, so Krishna. I would rather be a worm than to be chief associate of the Lord elsewhere. May I get into the worst trouble in Vrindavan, but I still don't pray for having all the material and spiritual opulence of the world elsewhere. I feel blessed even if I become an animal, a bird, a blade of grass, or even a speck of dust in Vrindavan, the wonderful forest which is endowed with Shyam Ras. So just give me 1 minute of meditation with my heart in Braj, and you can keep all the money and the luxury and all the pleasure, material pleasure, because all that is far, far greater. And it's forever. When I said at the beginning that you are all here and you've all been you've been grabbed by the divine. You've got the drop of nectar in you. You've seen it. You've felt that tiny little prick. You felt that tiny little tingle, that tiny little nudge, which made you feel something you've never felt. And then you keep coming back and keep coming back. Once you've had a little bit of that taste, you don't need the luxury. You don't want the luxury, because you know that it's everything, and you know it's eternal. And you never lose it. Sorry, I hope that might be bad news for some of for the spiritual tourists who just want to have a look and then go back to the material party. But you never lose it. You never forget it. You never forget the first time you met Gurudev. You never forget the first time you smelled the incense in the temple in Vrindavan. When you never forget the first time you heard our dear Satyananda sing Kirtan. You never forget it, never leave you. And when I say never, I mean for 1,000,000 lives. I don't mean until tomorrow afternoon. It's always with you, that you've had that realization that there's nectar in that there's the divine in that. Now we go back to Babaji, who says, Shripad Raghunath Das then prays for having a wonderful attachment to the Vrajvasis, the residents of Brajdam. So now we go on to the next theme. I think it's number 3. So we finished with Brajdam, the place, and now we're going to talk about the Brajvasis, the people, the ones who live there. And here too, there's a little bit of a play between the ones who live there materially and the ones who live there spiritually. We'll come back to this. Babaji continues. Here, Brajvasis must be understood to mean those who live in Brajdam, but in the broadest sense of the word. Those who live in Brajdam in the broadest sense of the word. That means the most general way. So not the specific little way of being in the old city of Vrindavan, but in the more general way of, well, we'll see, but we're going to find out that it's the spiritual Braj. And so being a Brajvasi means someone who's attached to like-minded people. Someone who's attached to Brajvasis. Babaji again now. The scriptures and the saints say that although the Dham, the Braj Dham, is a transcendental place, it assumes a material form out of mercy to the people of the world. The scriptures say, and the saints say, that although the Dham is a transcendental place, it assumes a material form out of mercy to the people of the world. So just like by the mercy of the Lord, we are permitted to have mental images of the amorous pastimes, which are completely transcendental, here too, the Brajvasis, who are transcendental, they take a material form so that we can see them, we can attach to them, and we can increase that attachment, increase our devotion, and so on. So Dham for Babaji has two meanings. One is completely, perfectly transcendental. Vrindavan forest, where all the flowers represent love, and where all the deer represent desire, and where Radha is constantly worrying about her meetings with her Mohan, and so on. It's that. But it's also a kind of energy that's flowing from that transcendental place. So the Brajvasis are material beings, transcendental beings with a material form, is what Babaji says. So Brajdam is a place with transcendental power. It's a place where we can go and we can interact with that energy, with that transcendental energy. So it's a kind of place, but where we interact with something that's not a place. It's a place on Google Maps. Yes, we can take the taxi. But when we go there, then we interact with souls who are not in that place, who are in a transcendental place. And so we're at the same time there and we're beyond there. And so if you've been to Vrindavan or you heard of Vrindavan, then you know that we say that all the dogs and the mice, they're all pure souls. So maybe you've had the experience if you've lived in Mungar Mandir, but when we have a mice problem, which, in the West, then we get a kind of machine that kills them. When we have a mice problem, then we have these mouse traps that actually catch the missing mouse, and then we take them far outside the walls on a scooter and let them out in a happy green field. This is how we catch the mice in Mungar Mandir. Because, of course, this mouse is a transcendental soul who's actually running around with Radha and Mohan, carrying messages and lovely emotions. So. And same thing goes obviously for cows and dogs and certainly all the human souls that are wandering around. We treat everyone as if they were Radha Mohan, because and from a certain point of view they are. Yeah, so Babaji continues, in the same way, the residents of the... Oh, I said that one, I'm sorry. No, I didn't. In the same way, the residents of the Dham are also assuming a material nature, although they are completely transcendental. Therefore, although some rough edges may be perceived on the behavior of the Brajvasis, we should consider this to be due to the contaminated state of our minds, senses, and intelligence, and remain fully devoted to them. So if the rickshaw driver seems a little bit grumpy with you, it's because you're not looking at him with pure enough eyes and with enough devotion. If you completely surrender to the idea that this tired, underpaid, grumpy rickshaw driver, if you surrender to the idea that he is completely divine, completely transcendental, then you too will be liberated. So that's the rough edges. I love the expression from Babaji. Although there's some rough edges, so everything's not quite perfect. And we know that Vrindavan is quite a, materially speaking, quite a dirty place, and lots of imperfect sewage system and garbage everywhere. This is only the problem of our consciousness, is what Babaji is saying. This is a problem which is caused by the contaminated state, not of the streets or the sewers, the contaminated state of our minds, our senses and intelligence, because we're not devoted enough to them. Now, another quotation from Prabhupada, Vrindavan Mahimamrita. Let's see. Those who reside in the forest of Shri Vrindavan have all attained spiritual bodies, and they are praised by the demigods and greatest sages. And so Babaji comments, and he repeats a bit what I was saying before. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada Saraswati desires to serve all the moving and non-moving creatures of Braj with the topmost devotion. Also the non-moving, also the stones and the trees. The first time a Westerner goes to Mangur Mandir and you see that people make dandavat in the temple and they take the dirt from the floor and they put it on their heads, because there also is transcendental energy. They take the dirt from the floor, which is more holy than they are, and put it on their heads. This is what Babaji is referring to. They desire to, Prabhupada desires to serve all the moving and non-moving creatures of Braj with the topmost devotion. Now, another quotation from, again, Prabhupada, the Vrindavan Mahimamrita, a little longer this time. May I attain the service of the moving and non-moving creatures of Vrindavan. Aho! They are naturally very dear to Krishna. The moon of Braj, and they are even more worshipable. Sorry, I'm reading badly. The moving and non-moving creatures of Vrindavan, they are naturally very dear to Krishna, the moon of Braj, and they are even more worshipable than the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma. So the stones and the trees and the dirt and the bushes, it's higher than the demigods. because they're fully realized devotional beings. He goes on, the glories of these exclusively transcendental forms, which consists of condensed ras, so very, very concentrated nectar of emotion, cannot be understood by tiny human brains. And they are the cause of bliss even to the Upanishads. Okay, let's summarize. It's a bit complicated. The creatures of Vrindavan, everything, the moving and non-moving, the people, the dogs, the mice, but also the trees and the stones and the dirt, they are higher than the demigods because they are pure devotional spirits. But even better, we can't understand them, we poor humans. And even higher, they are the cause, the origin of the happiness of the highest truths of Vedanta, the Upanishads. So the highest of the Vedic writings, the Upanishads, the impersonal writings, but nonetheless, they are inspired by the stones and the dirt of Vrindavan and the mice, above all the mice. The mice story. I had one time I was in Vrindavan where I had the service of the mouse catcher for a couple of weeks. And it's lots of fun, actually. But what always amazed me, that it wasn't enough to just go out to the gate and let him out on the street. The task was give the mouse to Satchiyananda, and he would go outside. He would go in the car or the bike or the scooter, go outside 5 kilometers away, and there he would release the mouse in a happy green field. This was the task.
Radhe Radhe Uddhava, Prabhu. I
Have
just
you had
remember we all had, I think, but everybody who served in Guru Kunj, I don't, perhaps Rajeshwari is there. She also served a lot. And we had this mouse Leela in Guru Kunj. And I was just thinking, during Aarti, suddenly the mouse, no, we did Aarti, and suddenly the mouse is coming on the Murti. And I was like, but we were there with lamp. And so okay, just continue. And then I thought, how fortunate is this soul? The best place. Or sometimes we see a mouse just running in Radha Mohan temple. And I just said, yes, you're right to live there. And they always come back, but yeah. It's very sweet.
But that he appeared right at Aarti, that was very auspicious.
Yes. Yeah. Or just, you think also we are preparing the ghee lamp, no? So you put 1 hour before Aarti starts, we put the ghee, you say ghee wax? Sorry for,
the wick.
The wick, ghee wick in the lamp. So I'm sure I did it, 100%. I come back just 5 minutes before everything starts, and I say, oh my God, 2 are missing. And the first time I thought, okay, I was really too tired. I did a mistake. But the second time I said, no, there is somebody who is stealing.
So auspicious. You couldn't have been more fortunate.
No, but and also, yeah, I think also Rajeshwari or our dear Kishori from Japan, we had all some little mouse lila going on. Really sweet. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's what Prabhupada is talking about, exactly, about the mouse leelas. It's true. Let's see now, Babaji comments. In the same way, take my laughing tears out of my eyes here. In the same way, Sri Raghunath begs his mind to show great attachment to the Sujana, the good people of Vraj or the Vaishnavas. So this is the whole point, that people who live in Braj. The Brajvasis, they have this beautiful divine status. He continues, for someone who wants to attain loving devotion to the Lord's lotus feet, it is compulsory to be attached to the association of his devotees. So you have to have the mouse seva to go deeper in your loving devotion. You have to have the honor of doing the mouse seva or other sevas. Now a little more from Vrindavan Mahamrita. Mahamrita. Sorry. No activity can be devotional service without the mercy of the saints. No activity can be devotional service without the mercy of the saints. Surely Krishna is attainable by the mercy of the Vaishnavas. So the Vaishnavas, the Brajvasis, are the saints we're talking about. And if you have a chance to serve them, like the mouse, then you will be successful in your devotional service. So you don't need to go to the big dome in Cologne, for example, and be shocked and amazed by all the beauty. You go and serve a mouse and give him a few extra ghee wicks, and you will have successful devotional service. Babaji comments, from these words, we can understand that loving devotion to the Lord's lotus feet can only be attained by the grace of the saints. Very much just what Prabhupada said. The Lord's mercy uses the saint's mercy or association as a vehicle to infuse it into another living entity. It does not take place independently. Now, this is a very simple idea, but very, very important. The Lord opens possibilities for the Brajvasis, who open possibilities for us. And you know what this means? This means that the good work that we do also lifts the souls of others. So everyone is in this chain, it's not just the saints and the gurus giving mercy. Everyone gives mercy, and we give mercy by opening our hearts and letting others connect to us and connecting to others. So mercy is not some sort of absolute substance like I don't know, a basket full of apples. I have apples, you don't have apples. I will give you an apple, then I'm good and you're thankful. Mercy is not like that. Mercy is letting come what wants to come. Mercy is letting come what will come. So mercy in our context is the understanding that the divine is something that flows. And once we realize that, then we let it flow. And once we let it flow, then everyone around us benefits from it. So Gurudev didn't actually give us a basket of apples. He didn't actually give us the book with the truth of the universe. He just sat there and opened his heart to us and let us find these things in ourselves. This is mercy. And this flows in a chain everywhere. From everyone we touch, everyone who has an open heart, lets mercy flow. The ones with the most open hearts are the highest. The ones with the less open hearts are lower, and then therefore they are able to give less and spread less. But everybody does this. And this is basically the meaning of the parampara, the Guru parampara. So this family tree of gurus, which goes back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from which the original mercy comes. To put it really crudely, really simply, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to his disciples, look, it's about love. Sorry, I simplify a lot, but maybe it's useful. Mahaprabhu said, it's about love. And his disciples believed him because he showed it. And then they had disciples to whom they said, look, it's about love. And he lived it, so they believed it. And on and on and on. So as soon as we all, learning from Gurudev, understand that it's about love, then we will, without even trying, without being generous or big or great men and women, we will let others understand that it's about love. Our children, our husband, our co-workers, and perfect strangers. They'll all see in our bodies and in our eyes and the way we behave that it's about love. And you know what? And then they'll go home and they'll do it for their children and so on and so on. I simplify a lot here, but this is the simple idea about mercy and Guru Parampara. There's no handbook, there's no rule book, there's no scripture, although it's very nice to read lots of things. It's about transmitting the complete faith that it's about love. And we know how to do this. We've all done it, and we've all received it, at least a little bit, at least one little drop of nectar. That's why we're here. And like I said before, you're also prisoners now. You're completely you're prisoners of love, because you'll never be able to wash that off of your heart. The moment when you realize that it's about love, it'll be with you forever. This is the miracle of the universe, and why the universe goes forward. If it was the evil that stepped with our hearts and we forgot the love, then it would be a bad place. But we never forget the loving experience we've had, even if it's short, even if it's not very strong. We remember it always. You can remember right now the first time you fell in love. Just looking around the screen, that would be like 30 years ago, at least. For me, it was 45 or something. You remember it, the first time, and you were gone. You've been a lover ever since. And now you're here with us. Let's see. I'm going to repeat the last one now after all these words I just said. This is Babaji again. The Lord's mercy uses the saint's mercy or association as a vehicle to infuse it, the mercy, into another living entity. It does not take place independently. It always comes from another. Bhakti is about relation, about flowing, about sharing, about giving, about devotion. And then Babaji says, one may ask here, the Lord can directly bestow his mercy in the form of devotion to his lotus feet. Why is it so dependent on the Mahat Kripa, the grace of the saints, or the Mahat Sangha, the association with the saints? So he's saying, look, if the Lord is so powerful, why can't he just give the mercy when he wants to? And that's the question, basically. So here comes the answer. He says, the scriptures and the saints answer to this. And now we're going to read Jiva Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis, the 6 disciples, main disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and in the book called Bhakti Sandarbha. So Jiva Goswami wrote 6 very important philosophy books about bhakti. And this is one of the more philosophical ones it's called the nature of bhakti. So here is what he writes. Although the grace of the Lord is the major, so the mercy of the Lord, The mercy of the Lord is the major and perfect cause of attaining devotion, which brings us to the Lord. It takes shape before us in this phenomenal world in the form of the grace of the saints. So even though it's mercy, sometimes it looks like it's a gift, like it's a basket of apples. So sometimes we get confused and we think, oh yeah, Gurudev, give me mercy. And then we feel something special and we say, thank you, Gurudev. I know you had some mercy in your pocket and now you've given it to me. You had an apple of mercy and you gave it into my pocket. But this is an illusion, Jiva Goswami is saying. It only looks that way. But when mercy comes from Guru, it's that Guru opens his heart and lets flow what's in his heart, which he got from his Guru and his Guru got from his Guru and so on. So there's this illusion that it's a material thing. And sometimes we say, I pray for your mercy, as though the person we're praying to could choose to give the mercy or not. Gurudev doesn't sit there and say, okay, you've behaved nicely today and I think you're a good person, so I'll give you some mercy. No. The mercy comes to your heart when your heart is open. It flows from Gurudev's heart when his heart is open and when his Guru's heart is open and so on and so forth. But since we have material minds, we sometimes think in this way. I pray for your mercy. Please give me some of the apples. I'm very hungry. Jiva Goswami continues. O Lord, the saints are the embodiments of your grace. The saints are the embodiments of your grace, your mercy. Whatever mercy you reveal in this phenomenal world wanders around here in the form of the saints and in no other form. So the best and most clear and most immediate way to see the mercy of the Lord is to look at people like Gurudev and others. In Vrindavan, there are many. The reason it's most immediate is because mercy flows from heart to heart, from the most open heart to the most open heart. So if we want to understand grace, mercy, its embodiments will be found in the saints, in the highest material spiritual beings. And by highest, we mean the ones with the most open souls, the most evolved souls. And now Babaji comments and says, therefore it is nothing but self-deception to reject the direct mercy of the Lord in the form of the saints and to seek the Lord's paroksha karuna, so mercy by doing things, let's say, by earning it, by like a job. Thus told the Lord, his dear devotee Uddhava. And now comes a citation from Bhagavatam, but let's check this, what he's saying here. He said, you're foolish to reject mercy that comes in this way, that comes from heart to heart, flowing from soul to soul. And lots of people confuse it with mercy that you have to gain. Or in the old Catholic Church in Europe, you could even buy it with money. You know, you could have an uncle who was a terrible sinner, and you could pay the church, and the priest would come and forgive the sins, and you'd be all good, ready to go to heaven. This is not possible. This is not possible with bhakti. It has to come through association and natural flow. So here's what Krishna explains to Uddhava. This is in Canto 11 of Bhagavatam. Canto 11 in Bhagavatam is the canto where, I'm going to be short and very simple again, I'm sorry. Uddhava comes to Krishna, who is his best friend, and he says, I can't believe how the gopis love you. I don't understand anything. Can you please explain? So all of Canto 11 is Krishna saying, here's how it is. And then very sadly, Krishna says, bye, I'm going back to heaven. So this is the chapter 11, canto 11, where he explains. It's really wonderful to read. And it's put together in a beautiful book called Uddhava Gita. But anyway, here's a citation from that where he's explaining. He says, my devotees are more worshipable. You should be more attached to worshiping my devotees than worshiping me. For worship of my devotees particularly pleases me. So the mercy you can get comes through love for me, for loving relation to me. And the ones who love me the most are my devotees. So if you want my mercy, don't come to me and say, oh, please give me your mercy. Love me by loving my devotees. And Uddhav, in the chapter before, he didn't understand. It's really beautiful. Chapter 10, canto 10 and 11. Uddhav didn't understand anything. He thought all the world could be explained. And then he went and he saw the gopis waiting for Krishna. They left him. They were deathly in love with him. Millions of them. And he thought, what is happening here? And then they explained, it's love. It's love that makes the world go round and not reason. Sorry, that's sort of the bedtime story for children version of it. But we only have so much time. Okay, Babaji comments now. This is because the Lord desires the devotee even more than himself. Now we're coming around to an important idea about Lord Chaitanya and his humility. That Krishna does not want worship because he's powerful, because he's beautiful, because he's knowledgeable, because he's rich. He doesn't even want worship. He wants love. So what Babaji is saying, the Lord desires the devotee even more than himself because he wants the devotee's love. And he goes on and it says he is more attracted, so the Lord is more attracted to the bliss of his devotees' devotion in the heart than to his own Svarupananda. So the happiness of his soul, the Svarupananda, the bliss of his soul. And he desires to relish that bliss more. So I don't care about anything except about the love that my devotees feel. And this is part of the message of Chaitanya's appearance. This is why Chaitanya is so humble. Chaitanya is Krishna. And yet he comes and he acts as though he's nobody. So he's a devotee, a perfect devotee. So this is Chaitanya, especially in his early life, is being Krishna, but he's acting in the form of a devotee who wants nothing more but to give love to Krishna. So the power of Krishna, so I have to be careful talking about power because it's not the power like a strong horse, or not the power like a car, or the power like a gun. It's the power of softness. It's the power of fragility. It's the power of being nothing. It's the power of being nobody. There is nothing more powerful than being nobody, because you cannot hurt nobody. We all spend all our material lives becoming somebody. Well, I'm a girl and I'm this height and I have that kind of nose and I went to that school and then I went to that school and I got that job and I got married to that guy and then I got that house, then I got that job. And all these things, this list of things, we call them a resume or a CV. This is who I am. That's what makes me somebody. And we're taught to do this by our parents, of course, and by society. And all that stuff on that list is constantly under threat. We're constantly insecure because we could lose it. I could lose my job. I could lose my house. I could lose my husband. I could lose my money. I could lose my clothes. I could lose my looks, which you're going to because you grow old. Everything that makes us somebody is under threat at every minute. That can be taken away. We're terrified all our lives. We can be hurt in 1,000 ways. But someone who clings to none of that, someone who's attached to nothing, someone who is herself because of her soul identity and not because of the clothes she wears or the car she drives, cannot be touched. There's nothing you can do to hurt her. In Bhagavad Gita, it says, well, the soul cannot be touched by winds or fire or earthquakes or anything at all. So there's no fear, no insecurity. There's only this, what we call bliss, pleasure, but not material pleasure. And this is what makes Krishna so-called powerful, in quotation marks. He realizes he's nothing but the love of his devotees. He wants to be nobody. I'm watching the clock a little bit here. We go back to Bhagavatam now with a quotation from Canto 9. The Lord told Durvasa Osi, not quite sure who that is, O Brahmana, I covet my devotees, I love my devotees, and the saints for whom I'm the only shelter, even more than I covet myself. I love myself, or my sixfold opulences. So all that power that's making me somebody, I love that less than the love I'm getting from my devotees. Babaji says, therefore it is said in the Shandilya Smriti, the Smriti, this is ideas from the tradition that are remembered, in contrast to the Shrutis, the ones that are coming in texts. It may be doubted whether a devotee of Achyuta attains perfection or not. But there's no doubt about it that someone who is dedicated to serving Achyuta's devotee attains perfection. Achyuta is Krishna, is God. So we don't know if a devotee is going to become perfect, but we know that the best way for us to become perfect is to serve a devotee. Therefore, in order to get Lord Vishnu's mercy, one must please the Vaishnavas with loving devotion. And it continues this quotation, by serving the saints, a festival of love for Madhu Sudana, the destroyer of material miseries, becomes firmly established within the heart. And another quotation, and then we'll conclude. Another quotation from Bhagavatam, this time Canto 3. Same point, making the same point, that the meaning of the life of Krishna follows from the love he receives from his devotees. And, of course, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Radha becomes a devotee. Radha becomes the one who wants to give him love in the highest form, but in a very special way because he is, of course, Radha. We'll come back to that for sure. So here's Bhagavatam. Associating with saints and serving them means to lovingly worship them with body, mind, and words. Hearing topics of Krishna from them, remembering these topics, following their exemplary behavior, and doing bhajan according to their instructions. Nowadays, Mahatseva or Vaishnava Seva has become known as giving some money, food, or clothes, feeding them some khichdi or whatever the donor can think of, and thereby treating the Vaishnavas with contempt as if they are beggars. This is what I'm talking about. You come with a bag of apples and you say, "Can you have some mercy, please? Here's 4 apples. And for 5 apples, I'd like a little more mercy." An intelligent person will understand whether or not all of it is in adherence to the above quoted holy words. So an intelligent person will understand if it's true mercy, if it's mercy coming from the heart and going to the heart, and won't be something we can buy with apples. There's more and more quotations about this devotion theme. I'm trying to find a place to round off. An intelligent person, this is Babaji again. An intelligent person will understand whether or not, I said it already, whether or not all of it is in adherence to the above quoted holy words. And now Narada Panchatrat says, this is a book also, one must serve the Vaishnavas with the greatest devotion. And then finally, we'll stop here. Rupa Goswami writes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the wise understand that each item of devotion to the Lord discussed in this book has a corresponding item of devotion to a devotee. That's a very good place to conclude. It says, the Lord doesn't want to be king. The Lord wants there to be devotion. So it's just as valuable for us to be devotees to other devotees as it is to be devotees to Krishna himself. The point isn't giving power or baskets of apples or some sort of opulence. The point is to make the love pass, to give the love. We're not here to worship Krishna. We're not here to worship Radha either. I think this is a mistake we make sometimes. We're here to worship their relationship. We're here to venerate and not only worship, but support and make it, nourish it. That's the word. So it's not about who we're giving love to. It's that the love flows. And the reason why we're so interested in Radha and Mohan, it's not because Radha is the most beautiful and Mohan is the best flute player. That's very interesting. The reason we're interested in them is because it's they who can make the love flow most greatly. Bhakti is about devotion. It's not about Radha. It's about Radha in devotion to Mohan. So all these quotations are in one way or another saying it's more important to have devotion than to venerate God. Devotion is the highest thing. Prem is the highest thing. Love for God is much higher than God. So any way we can show love is better than worshipping. And everywhere we show love, last word, promise, everywhere we show love is in a tiny bit or a greater bit showing love to God. All love we give is part and parcel of love that we give to the divine. Every little caress you give to your cat is a tiny atom of prema. So give it everywhere and focus all your activities on giving it more. This is the message that Babaji is, through Raghunath Das Goswami, is giving us. So here we'll stop in the middle of this. I'm still in the middle of the commentary, but it's a very nice commentary. I hope you agree. Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.